Commissioners meeting will be called to order at 5 p.m. in the boardroom of the Learning Resource Center. Can you please take roll to determine quorum?
Buckholz.
Here.
Morey.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Rollinger. Walker.
Here.
Wall. Weaver.
Here.
Quorum is present.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda with the removal of item 804.4.
Second.
Motion by Clark and a second by Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion adopted. We'll kick off tonight with our special recognitions. Tonight we are focusing on our athletic accomplishments, so I'll hand it over to Tanya. Oh.
Okay, I'll try to speed through this, but we have quite a few things to recognize for our winter and our spring athletics. Our first group coming in is very minimum because a lot of people have conflicts, but we're going to bring in Coach Tompkins. And just to know, we are recognizing, these are the people we're recognizing tonight. We're recognizing anybody that was a state champion, if a team was a conference champion, anybody that's state qualifier as an individual or a team, all state selections, if they're a first team or a league all-state selection, and then if we have anybody that's a coaching staff of the year, and then any kids who are academic all-state. So girls basketball, first of all, Coach Thompson's here representing our staff. They were recognized as the All-Metro Coaching Staff of the Year. Other coaches on their staff were Kristen Becker, Kelsey Rastetter, Stephanie Haskin, Nicole Rowland, Jennifer Thurston, Jordan Lippert, and Ish Obleton. We also had some recognition individual-wise. Meredith Coonan and Riley Cronin were named Academic All-State. Zoe Kennedy was named to the third team All-State team. Taylor Brunson and Zoe Kennedy were named to the All-Region and All-District teams. So those are our recognitions for girls basketball. So congratulations. Okay, our next group is boys swimming. Unfortunately, they're not here tonight with a lot of different conflicts. But I would like to recognize them as a state qualifying team. They finished 6th overall at the state swim meet. They also qualified in 11 different events for the state. Individual honors, honorable mention All-State in the 200-yard IM is Blake Behrens. And also honorable mention All-State is 200 freestyle, Blake Behrens, Ryan Horsey, Colin Taylor, and Hudson Huberg. Second team All-State was their 200 medley relay, Parker Macho, Blake Behrens, Colin Taylor, and Hudson Huberg. The 100 butterfly was Parker Macho, and the 100 breaststroke was Blake Behrens. And then we also did have Hudson Huberg, was a double qualifier and named first team All-State in the 50 freestyle and 100 freestyle. And whenever they get named first team All-State, their picture goes up on the wall outside of our gym. So any of these individuals I'm talking about tonight that are first team All-State will be on the gym or on the wall by the gym. And also another awesome recognition for our boys swim team is there's a National Interscholastic Swimming Coaches Association that honors Scholar Team Awards. And our boys swimming team had an overall GPA of 3.837, which considers them to like the gold level. So they got that award. Blake Behrens also got a Senior Scholastic Award. Ryan Horsey was named Academic All-State. And Tom Beelan and his staff were named the Valley Division Coaches of the Year. So congratulations to boys swimming. Okay. Our next group is boys wrestling. I thought I saw Coach Stryker out there. I can't convince him to come. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So boys wrestling. We were conference champions for the 22-23 season. We were also district champions. Coach Stryker and his staff were named the MBC Coaches of the Year, also the Metro Coaching Staff of the Year. We did have an All-Metro Wrestler of the Year, Tate Noctaborn. And then the following qualified for the state wrestling tournament. Aiden Kesey was at 106. Malik DeBow, who placed 5th at 113. Nate Fish qualified at 120. Aiden Eilinger at 126. Braden Park at 132, and he placed 2nd place in the state. Kay Noctaborn qualified at 138. He was also 2nd place. Grant Kress at 152. He was runner-up as well. Grant Boddicker competed at 160. Tate Noctaborn finished runner-up at 182. And Griffin Schultz qualified at 220. I know a lot of those individuals are at practices tonight because they're trying to compete for the World Games and upcoming different things, so that's why they're not here. But congratulations to our wrestling staff and individuals. All right, our next group is girls wrestling. This was the,
Come on in.
come on in.
Come on in.
Right there. That's good. Yep, you can face these guys. There you go.
Perfect, thank you.
This was the first year that girls wrestling was sanctioned in the state of Iowa, so we're super excited for these individuals over here. We actually had 6 girls that qualified for the state tournament, first year of the state tournament, which was actually held down at the Extreme Arena in Coralville. Allie Jelinek, Kate Seary, and Reese Roberts are all here tonight. They qualified, as well as Ava Hofer, Haley Setrum, and Trinity Young. Also want to congratulate our coaches, Mike Gears and Kelly Seary and Eric Noctaborn, for leading this, this charge the first year that it was sanctioned. So congratulations to our girls wrestlers.
So our YouTube audience can see you.
Yep.
Look at the
Camera
camera.
right there.
There you go.
Come on, Coach Gears.
Go girls.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, our next group, rounding out the winter sports, will be bowling and palms here. We'll go bowling first. For boys, Boston Stoffel and Calix Carpenter. Calix is here tonight. They both qualified for the state bowling tournament that was held in Waterloo, and Calix was also named second team All-State. So congratulations to Calix.
That works.
All right. And rounding out our winter sports is our palms team. Face this way. Face this way. There you go. And then when I get done talking, you'll want to turn
Then you
around.
get
like
to
wave
turn
the
around.
camera.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Exciting year for our palms. Every year is exciting, but this was more exciting. Our coaches this year were Sammy Herrera, Jennifer Hamus, and Kennedy Chapman. These girls placed first in Palm and Jazz at the state tournament, and they also placed first in Palm and Jazz at the regionals. And then at nationals, they got second place in Palm, which is the highest finish of any of our Palms team has ever had. So second place in the nation is pretty dang cool. So congratulations,
Wow.
ladies. All right, next we're gonna go with the spring sports. And we should have girls track coming in here.
Here they come.
Oh, there they are.
Traffic jam.
They're not running. Girls, just kind of form like a couple lines and face this way. This way, face a line this way. No.
Face us.
Lines facing that way. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. I know you guys used to run around in a circle. I get it. All right, this group, our girls track team, just actually got back from the state tournament 2 days ago. They, first of all, were conference champs in our division. And then I'm going to just run through this really quick. These are the qualifiers for our state tournament, our state track meet. 400-meter dash, Bethany Northrup got 10th place. 800-meter run, Bethany was 7th place, and Chloe Egbert also participated in the 800-meter run. 100-meter hurdles was Katie Hand. Shuttle relay with Petra Sherman, Mariah Young, Allison Kriegel, and Katie Hand. We also qualified in the 4x100 relay with Gwen Gaffney, Katie Hand, Sydney Carcello, and Kaylee Bunn. 4x200 relay, Abby Mecklenburg, Gwen Gaffney, Sydney Carcella, and Sarah White. The 4x400 relay, Brecca Trapp, Amiras Nielsen, Maya Dengehagen, and Bethany Northrup. 4x800 relay, Brecca Trapp, Jordan Beck, Allie Buck, and Chloe Egbert. Sprint medley, which placed 8th. Janiyah Crawford, Sydney Carcello, Gwen Gaffney, and Bethany Northrup. Distance medley, Brooklyn Gill, Maya Dengehagen, Amiras Nielsen, and Rachel Addison. High jump was Katie Hand, she placed 9th, and Allison Kriegel also high jumped. In the long jump, we had Petra Sherman placed 10th, and Abby Mecklenburg placed 11th. In the discus, we had Erica Kinn and Gwen Gaffney. And in the shot put, we had Josie Toinger and Kennedy Evans, and Kennedy placed 7th. A couple things to recognize with this team. This was the only high school program at the state meet of all classes to qualify all 8 field events with 8 different athletes. They also were one of 9 4A girls programs to qualify all of their relays to the state meet, and the only school in our conference to do so. So congratulations to our girls track team. Turn around
You
and
guys
face,
need to
turn
turn
around
around and face
the
that
camera right there.
camera there.
There you go. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, I forgot this. This is a big deal. These following individuals were named Academic All-State. Rachel Adamson, Kennedy Evans, Katie Han, Allison Kriegel, Amiras Nielsen, and Abby Benzina. So that's a big deal. So congratulations to those girls.
Cool.
All right, next up will be our boys track team. Guys, just come in and like form a line facing the front table here.
Present yourselves. Present yourselves.
All right, our boys track team, they just returned from the state track meet as well. These were some of the participants, but I'm gonna read through them really fast here. Carter Henderson qualified in 100-meter dash. Caden McCloy, 200-meter dash. Tayden Ferguson finished 5th in the 400-meter dash. Riley Kuhn participated in the 3,200-meter run. Nicholas Gorsuch was in the 400-meter hurdles and 110-meter hurdles, where he was state champion in both.
All right.
His time in the 400-meter hurdles is 6th all-time fastest in the state of Iowa. Will Grant also participated in the 400-meter hurdles, where he placed 8th. We qualified in the 4x100-meter relay with Nathan Leemhuse, Carter Henderson, TJ Jackson, Caden McCloy. 4x200-meter relay with Caden McCloy, Tayden Ferguson, Carter Henderson, and Nathan Leemhuse. In the 4x400 relay, which placed 4th, Tayden Ferguson, Nick Gorsuch, Gabe Harris, and Will Grant. And they're named Elite All-State. And they shattered the school record, which will probably stand for some time now. The 4x800 relay, Ethan Gozine, Graydon Morrissey, Owen Hansen, and Luke Steffen. The distance medley relay, Bryson Meal, Cade Jesse, Jackson Severson, and Ethan Gozine. The high jump, TJ Jackson, he was our state champion, where he cleared 6'11". So congratulations, TJ. TJ also placed 3rd place in the long jump. In the discus, we had Murphy Alcott and Keaton Roskup, and Keaton placed 2nd, which made him first team in Elite All-State. Shot put, Keaton placed 9th, and Sam Watts placed 3rd. And then our shuttle hurdle relay of Nathan Lemus, Nick Gorsuch, Colton Waller, and Will Grant placed runner-up in the shuttle hurdle, which placed them first team in Elite All-State. And then our sprint medley, which is Nathan Lemus, Carter Henderson, Tayden Ferguson, and Will Grant, got 10th place. The following were also named Academic All-State, and they may not know this yet, but they're going to find out right now. Ethan Gozine, Creighton Fairley, Nick Gorsuch, and Gabe Harris. So congratulations to you guys on an awesome year. You guys want to turn around and face that camera right there? You can wave at it if you want. You can wave at it. There you go. All right, thanks, guys. You can go out the door.
Good job, guys.
All right, next up we have girls tennis. All right, there's perfect, girls. Kara Cooper and Lawrence Digger-Walt are both here tonight. They have qualified as a doubles team for the state tournament. They will actually play this Friday and Saturday down at the University of Iowa Tennis Center. So congratulations to these two. It's been about 6-7 years since we've had a doubles team qualify. So congratulations, girls.
Good luck, girls.
Yes, good luck.
All right, boys tennis. Just kind of form a couple lines facing the front table here, guys.
You come a little closer.
We don't bite.
Come on up, guys.
There we go. Perfect. Okay, our boys tennis season is still underway. Just like the girls, we have qualified 2 doubles teams, Zach Mersch and Malcolm Rice, and Garrett Bauermeister and Jackson Kramer. Those 2 doubles will actually play tomorrow and Wednesday down at the University of Iowa, so good luck to you pairs. And then we've also qualified as a team at the state team tennis meet, which will be played next Wednesday, May 31st at Waukee Northwest High School. And members of that team are Zach Mersch, Garrett Bauermeister, Jackson Kramer, Malcolm Rice, Brock Witham, Quentin Spalor, and Nick Carney. But we appreciate the rest of our seniors that travel with them, and your support has helped a lot. So congratulations to our boys tennis team, and good luck the rest of the season. They can turn around and face that camera. Okay, thanks guys.
Good luck, guys.
Good luck, guys.
Good luck.
They're going to practice now, so.
Enjoy those new tennis courts.
The rest of our spring sports are at practices right now, so I'm just going to recognize them. Girls soccer, they are conference champs. That's actually 8 times out of the last 11 years that we've been conference champs.
Wow.
We will actually play Waterloo West tomorrow night at the stadium at 7 p.m. in a regional semifinal game. And when they win, they will again host on Thursday at the stadium, either against Dubuque Hempstead or Dubuque Senior for trying to get back to state. Last time they were at state was 2019. All state academic for girls soccer, Ashley Vanderkamp and Haley Seatram. And also our head coach, Marco De Leon, got his 100th career win this season as well. So congratulations to girls soccer. Boys soccer, they're actually down at the stadium getting ready for their sub-state game, which is tonight at 7 in the stadium, and where they are playing Iowa City High. And when they win, they will travel to Kingston Stadium on Wednesday to play Kennedy. That's assuming if Kennedy wins, but that's probably the likelihood of what their schedule is. So both girls and boys soccer still going on in hosting postseason games this week. So good luck to those 2 teams. And then the last group I want to recognize is our girls golf team. They're out at Hunters Ridge practicing right now. They were conference champions, and Chris James and his coaching staff were named the NBC and the Metro Coaching Staff of the Year. And then Morgan Rupp, who is a sophomore, our #1 golfer, was named the Conference Golfer of the Year. They just finished first place and won the regional golf meet at Irv Warren up in Waterloo last Wednesday, which qualified them as a team for the state golf meet, which will be held this Thursday and Friday in Ankeny at Otter Creek Golf Course. And Morgan Rupp was also named medalist at the regional meet. So we've got a lot of things going on still, finished up a lot of things, but as you can see, it's been a really, really successful winter and spring, and we're looking forward to baseball and softball being successful too this summer. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doing great things.
Must have offended him.
Right. So at this time, at this time, we will open a public hearing on our proposed amended budget for fiscal 22-23. So if anyone here at this time wants to speak on the proposed amended budget, please identify yourself and come to the podium. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and move on to our informational reports. First up, Rachel, you want to give us an update on the latest DEI committee?
Yeah, this was a productive meeting. Spent the majority of the meeting identifying focus areas and coming up with action items related to those focus areas. Those focus areas are anti-bullying and belonging, restorative consequences / discipline, communication, and strengthening community relations. What they're doing is sort of coming up with kind of like a mini strategic plan that can build off of the district strategic plan. So Nathan's gathered that information. Our consultants were there. They also took notes, gathered information, and my understanding is that Nathan and the consultants are going back. They're going to kind of clean that up and send that out to committee members to review. Did I miss anything, Nathan? Okay.
Awesome. We look forward to when that comes together.
So will that plan also, will that address all the different areas of the strategic plan that are related to DEI?
I think it's just going to, you mean our? What are you talking about? Like our strategic plan?
Yes.
Well,
I'm confused.
we don't really have, we haven't
Is it tying
finalized.
into the bigger strategic plan
It's
that we're
supposed to tie
creating?
into the bigger strategic plan
Okay.
that we are creating. We don't have the final strategic plan for the district yet, so I don't know exactly how that will align
That's what I'm
just
wondering.
yet. But again, that sort of remains to be seen. We're still waiting on that final product to take a look at. So
This mini strategic plan is based on the DEI survey results and your feedback from your focus groups, correct?
Correct.
So this is kind of the culmination of the work you guys have been doing,
correct.
and then that will be aligned.
Yes, yes, and
Cool.
it can be tweaked. I don't think it's like, it's gonna get sent out. It's not gonna be, you know what I mean, like in its final form
Draft.
just yet. It's a draft. We can look at it. Well, I know there's gonna be some kind of informal conversations happening over the summer, and then I imagine when we meet again in September, do we meet in September or August, Nathan? September, we'll have our strategic plan finalized at that point, and so we can kind of look a little bit more closely into aligning those two. That is the goal, ultimately.
Any additional questions for Rachel? Next up is Finance Audit Committee. We met last week. We had a full agenda. Dave likes to keep us very busy. So we went over monthly finances, and we reviewed all the bills, and we looked at the budget amendment, which is going to come up for discussion, and I'll let Dave touch on that.
Yeah, the budget amendment, really, there are 4 categories on the expenditures that we always have to budget to. You have instruction, you have support, you have non-instructional, and you have other type of expenditures. And those are the 4 main categories you always have to look at to see where you're setting. And when I looked at everything from based on last year's budget, certified budget, there were 4 areas that we did have to make some modifications to. We had to increase instruction. Probably the main driving force on the construction was the increase in open rollout costs that we had. That was probably the main driver of what caused the change to happen. In the support area, you had some utilities, transportation, because we had to charter a lot of buses this year. So our expenditures on that front was like over 100 and approximately $120,000 more than last year, just on that area alone. So in our utilities, or electricity, we were running about $300,000 more than what we initially had budgeted for electricity. So those are the kind of the main drivers on that. And the other support area where we're having to increase budget is due to the construction of the new LRC. I added a little bit extra there because you never know how much expenses are going to occur when you start a new construction, how quickly they bill things. So I might be a little high there, but because they haven't even broken ground yet. So those are the main drivers on the budget. So.
We also looked at the student fee schedule, which is on the agenda for approval tonight. We looked at, got a nice update on the new performance center, which I think you guys have done a nice job of really going through those plans with OPN and looking for ways to not make it make it more efficient in terms of budget and keeping it right in line with what we have approved. So I appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing more updates there. Touched on transportation, but that's a whole agenda item that we're going to dig into. I'll just say that as a committee, we agreed with the recommendation that we'll talk about later. So, Clark, you want to? Am I missing anything?
The only thing that to me made a lot of common sense was the adjustment on the new auditorium. It cut down. It gave us some more restrooms, but it cut down on some of the pathways that people had to get to certain places, and it was done very simply, but ergonomically, and I was pretty impressed on how that happened, and then it's going to reduce the cost a little bit, and we'll do anything to reduce the cost, because it looks like a tremendous facility is going to be there, and not only OPN, but everybody that's looked at it. Jeff was there and Kim was there, and give their input. And I think that transformer situation that was there might help us out in the long run, because we already have some that's just going to be transferred into a different place. So I think that's going to make it nice.
The only other thing I want to mention is the last time we met, we mentioned that the district had been approached about a cell phone tower, and we had given Dave the go-ahead to learn more. Well, we learned more, and what that request actually was for a marketing company for us to have an exclusive deal with just them to go out and try and convince someone to put a cell phone tower on our property. So we said no. If someone wants to put a cell phone, they can come talk to us directly. And we said no to the marketing scheme. So we probably won't be hearing about the cell phone tower, but that's why, because it wasn't a tower, it was marketing. So, but otherwise, it was a really, really good meeting. Lots of good updates for the end of the year, wrapping things up. So, and like I said, we're going to dig into the transportation piece here in a bit. So, that's really all we have for now. SIAC.
I can share a few things. I think everybody's got the printout of the high-level preliminary scores, and they did note that these will be adjusted still because the written portion of those reading tests have not been scored yet. There's now an essay portion of the tests, and so once those have scored, the reading tests will likely actually go down, because that's the more difficult, or the most difficult portion of the test for the kiddos is the essay portion. So scores ranged anywhere from 68% to 85%. State benchmark, I believe, is 80%. And we've kind of set as a district high-level, long-term goal to try to get to 85%, which to me feels a little unattainable right now anyway, because we're pretty far away from that for some of those. But I was reminded that the state benchmark is 80%, which does feel a little bit more measured. A couple of the key things that we noted from the tests was that our middle school numbers are really good, and almost everything is at or above the state benchmarks. And then our high school numbers are not quite as strong, and we feel like there's a COVID piece to that potentially. And then that's something that they need to assess a little bit further and figure out what we need to be doing. Could be some curriculum issues, could be their COVID experience during middle school, and how that compounds the learning that they had for science, math, English, and how that follows. And then the other thing that they shared during this was about a new pilot program that is being explored related to restorative justice practices. And this is being implemented in the LRC, and specifically for kiddos who are struggling to be in the classroom have had some behavioral difficulties and might need some additional supports before they're ready to be back in the classroom. And what I like about this is that this is something that we as a board have been identifying that we want to see is restorative justice. We want to see our district move toward not jumping to suspension, expulsion. We want to keep kids in school. We want to support kids in ensuring that their needs are being met and that we're providing them support versus punitive practices. And so I like that we have identified an option there. I think that there's some things that we need to just vet and look into with this in order to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. So I've requested, and I think that Rachel and I had a conversation afterwards, and we talked with Nathan, and we've requested to have this program come to the board so that we can ask some more questions and make sure that all of us know the information about the program and that we have an opportunity to thoroughly review the program, since it does change a few things about how kids are learning and things like that. But I think in theory the concept is good and some strong possibilities to it. So
piggyback on that a little bit. Everything you said obviously is a lot of what I had written down. With the restorative center, I think, and I don't want to speak for you or Rachel, but I think we were all kind of surprised when we heard that was even being done. And, you know, I appreciate you going and asking for that information and have it brought to the board because, again, there's a lot of questions there on what is it, how is it being implemented that I think it would be good for us to know. So we're assured that, you know, it's aligning with what we have in place and are going to put in place as far as policy and those sort of things. So I appreciate you bringing that up. We also talked a little bit about, you know, we had a curriculum update with Super Kids, Wit and Wisdom, illustrative math, and those types of things, and you know, a little bit of the growing pains, if you will, of adding all of that at one time. So I appreciate the work that group is doing, and I look forward to the fall meeting when that's really where all of the information comes together and we have the data to compare. So I think this was good to, you know, bring up some of those issues that we didn't know about, but I think the fall meeting will have a lot more substantive, you know what I'm trying to say, information that we can dig into. So that's what I've got.
I just have a couple really quick things to add. One, just on our science scores, these continue to lag, and I think that there are probably some reasons for that, but I don't know that we've identified them, and I do think that it's something that it's really an area that we need to dig into a little bit more and really try to figure out why those scores are so low. You know, we don't test that every year because they don't offer that test every year. We test in 5th grade, in 8th grade, and in 10th grade. But I definitely think this is something that we really need to get some more information on. It continues to come up year over year. So I would like some more information on that. And then another thing I'd asked Nathan about was that I had done some reading that there's a phonics program that gets paired with the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. But I don't know that we've gotten information about that when we've had curriculum updates. So I would be curious, I don't know how other board members feel, but I would be curious just to get a little bit more information on that, kind of what that looks like, what curriculum we're using for that.
I have written down on that 95% group. Is that the name of it?
Yes.
I don't know why I have that.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're using more than one at like different ones at different grade levels, or
We can certainly bring back more of an in-depth discussion on that piece of it too, the supports that are in place. And the other thing I was going to follow up a couple of comments on the program we're talking about for the more the restorative piece of things as well. Melissa's 100% correct, and the way we got to where we're at now is really from a spot a while ago as we were dealing with an expulsion situation, and none of us felt good about that. So the brainstorming coming out of there was what can we do to try to find better ways to address things than, as you said, expulsion and suspension. And we've gone through different iterations and brainstorming pieces of what that could look like as well. It's been a work in progress, continues to be a work in progress. So we certainly weren't trying to keep the board in the dark on that topic. We can certainly fill you in on more information about that, but it's still a work in progress. It is not an established program per se like you would think of Venture or Compass itself, but it's certainly a good time for us to provide that update. I mean, that's why we're using SIAC as that tool to provide that update, but we can provide the board more specifics on that as well too to clarify that. That makes a lot of sense to do that. And then the test score piece of it as well, just a reminder, you have it in front of you right now, in front of you, but we did not project it. It's not part of our presentation piece tonight, only because that's not our official scores yet.
Right.
Melissa mentioned that as well, but I wanted to kind of reiterate that piece of it. Once that becomes official, and those are our true ISAP scores from the state, and then once we get our FAST scores as well, we will still provide the board a more official update like we usually do, whether that's this summer or to kick off the school year as well. So that's the only reason why you're getting the paper version tonight and not the public official data yet, because we don't have that quite yet. So just to clarify the intent behind that. And then the final thing I'll add to the SIAC piece is the testing times always come at a interesting time as far as when do we get the results back and then what do we do with those results. And with SIAC, trying to figure out when is the right time for that too. May is always tough. And then we always have a meeting in November where we're realizing those are not the ideal times to align with our assessment windows. So we're looking to move SIAC dates up to September for the fall one. So even that's still several months after the tests were done, it's still early in the school year to, we've had time to look at our official data and start to look at some goals and options with that. So SIAC dates will change for next year and try to make that a little more aligned to where our current assessments are to use the data when it's as fresh as it possibly can be without being in the middle of summertime as well. So
Can I just add one more thing, because that just reminded me of something. We talked about how the tests were administered this year in terms of like they were administered all in one day, it sounded
school they
like.
were, yep.
And so, you know, when we're looking at these scores, I think it's worth noting that, you know, these are very long tests, they are tiring, and, you know, if we put them all in one day, you know, that gets to be a lot. And I think students, you know, they just wind down, they check out, you know. I think any of us could understand how that could happen. So I think it should maybe be evaluated whether that's the best way to do it. And I know that kids want to be done with it and they want to get out of school and all of that, but I think, you know, it's most important that we get the most accurate scores from them, and certainly so that we know we really have a good idea where they're at. And then one other thing that I'll note is that math is a skinny, that's a full year. Reading for the high school and maybe the middle school too is a block, and so not all students have had the full semester of instruction when they take these tests. So I think that that's worth noting too, that could have an effect on these scores.
those are both really good points. The timing of the curriculum alignment with the test is definitely something we always keep in mind. And then this was the first year the high school took all the tests on one day as a trial to see, is that a better way of doing things logistically and then also results-wise, or is it not the best? So I think they felt pretty good about procedurally how it went, but now that we have the test results, that's also a factor to figure in to see, is that really the best way to do it or not? I know they struggle with how many school days do you mess up the schedule and routine.
Absolutely.
What's the positives and the negatives to sort through, but certainly something to revisit now that we actually have scores to look at to see, did this work or was it not the best format? So.
Very last thing I will add is that as I was looking through these afterwards and reflecting back on our decision to kind of move from math-specific strategists to math and reading, it did make me feel better about that decision, in that across the board, overall, average-wise, our math scores are higher than our reading scores. Almost every grade is either within 1% or above the state benchmark for math. And we have several grades that were below the state benchmark for reading. And so I recognize that there is more of a need across the district in multiple grades for us to be emphasizing that reading support. And so our ability to flex that based on what grade and what building needs what really does help and give us some flexibility across the district. And I know that it's a grade issue versus a building issue, and that creates a little bit of, you know, it's not as simple and it's not an easy one thing or another, but that does allow our buildings and our specialists to be able to say who needs what, and maybe some can do both, and maybe some can do math, some can do reading, and some can do this for this grade and this for that grade. And so I'm interested to see where that evolves to.
I was not aware until Rachel spoke up about the test. I agree with her 110%. You bring in a student and, you know, where do you say, hey, we've got to do this test, so we're going to do it in one day? Or do we think of the students and how they perform and try and give them the best opportunity to increase their scores if it's split up? And, you know, the powers to be, I think, need to take a very serious look at that, and from the standpoint of the success of the students and how the test is given versus, hey, this is the day, get it done, now we've got that done, and check that off of our paperwork. The other thing that I'm really interested in that the three of you talked about was bringing in that group, and I'm just going to piggyback a little bit with what Shannon was saying. Once you suspend or have an expulsion, they're out of the building, and we do not know what's going on once they're out of the building. If this thing works and is validated to keep those students in one of the buildings so they still can be learning, you know, it'll be in a different situation. But a typical student, once they're away, yeah, we have things for them that if they choose to do it, they can, but a lot don't. And I think this brings the Linn-Mar family kind of back the way it should be. In other words, hey, yeah, you've had some really tough times. We don't just want to see you say goodbye, okay? We want to still try and help the best way we can. And, you know, a lot of people need second chances, I think. And that's all I was going to say.
I just had a clarifying question about something, Rachel, I think you said, that the reading scores don't include the writing portion yet?
Yeah, that's correct. They have essays that they have to do, and so those have to be, you know, hand scored.
So they write those on a computer though, correct?
That I don't know the answer to. You'd
Type
have
that
to
in.
ask.
So I'm just going to reiterate my concern for the third, fourth, possibly fifth graders that are typing in essays when they haven't learned how to type. When you're asking a kid to comprehend reading and create their thoughts, but then they're also trying to learn and figure out where the keys are, I would be interested in if our scores dip when the writing is added in there, because that's a second set of skills they're not proficient in. So would like to keep that as another thought in our process of when we're looking at the scores. And maybe they don't dip, and maybe it all works out, and that would be great. But I know how frustrating it can be to type when you don't know how to type. And when they don't have the option, they could probably write down their thoughts as they're thinking them, but when you have to create your thoughts and you're trying to find the keys to write the sentences, that's just another layer of stress on our youngest kids.
And I assume, Nathan, that those are timed, the essays, or no? They're untimed. Oh, okay.
Well, that's helpful.
That's good to know.
So
It's good to know.
Any other questions for SiAC? All right, Rachel, City Council, anything exciting?
You sure it wasn't Matt's turn?
Sure it wasn't Matt's turn.
More liquor licenses, always more liquor licenses. And no, there were two very small, I mean, probably only a handful of homes would be the result of these sort of developments that were approved. So nothing major, nothing major.
All right, transportation update. I'll turn it over to Dave to talk about some of the contracts coming up in the consent agenda.
All right, so let's talk about the bus bids first, since I was looking at what comes first in the agenda here. We actually had bus bids went out, and Brian struggled a long time looking at the bids and reviewing the bids, and so we are recommending something that is not typical what we would recommend. We're recommending not the low bid, but we're recommending a higher bid, and because of some issues that we've had recently with our Bluebird models, we've actually, and we don't even know if the bid that they submitted, it will be ultimately the right amount, because they have done surcharges last year, and they actually, we asked them not to do surcharges in our bid, but they did, and they actually set the surcharge already, even after they submitted the bid, and said, oh, wait, we have a surcharge, we need to throw that into the mix as well. So we're not sure if that will be, any more surcharges would be coming down the road, since the buses will probably take at least a year before we would get those, and a lot can change in that time, and if there's a surcharge, they will apply that to it, and so the numbers are not fixed, they could change. We've also had, we had one bus, a brand new bus that had a issue with a warranty issue, out of commission the first year, 10 and a half months, while it's waiting to get fixed on a warranty issue. So those are just a couple examples of things that have been challenging. And when you look at the chassis of the International versus the Bluebird, the chassis is a little more robust. The steel is 16 gauge versus 20 gauge. And so that's, you know, when you're looking at protection of kids for impacts, that's a big thing to look at. And so, and we are also only ordering 2 buses, not typical 4 that we would typically do, because we are also looking, we're going to talk about a little bit later here, at redoing our camera systems in all our buses, and which will provide us a lot more on-time, live, you know, video of situations that are happening. So, which is very costly to retrofit all of our buses with that. And so, because of the delay in when we receive our buses, we feel like we can get by with us ordering 2, and then use some of the extra money to retrofit our buses with a better camera type of a system that will be able to monitor our buses better and react quicker and those types of things. So that's on the bus bid that you guys will be looking at approving, reviewing and approving. The other 2 things that we're looking at, currently we have TransFinder. It's our bus routing software. Part of that, there's a thing, there's another feature in it, Stop Finder, Trip Finder, View Finder, and that's all a component of the TransFinder. And that fee annually is about a little over $20,000. We're looking at a Transact system, which does a lot of the same features on that, and but it also ties into a different system a little bit better. It's called Transportet, and that is the system where we're buying all the cameras, the systems, the iPads where kids can scan onto the bus, so we'll know exactly what kid is on the bus. And we can actually see live feed. Our cameras will give us live feed. If there's something that happens, they can actually go from the office and look at the bus and see the issue, and they can actually download a file of the issue right away and not have to wait to the bus that comes to the lot to pull out the hard drive to check the video. They can actually do it live. So when there's kids on the bus, if there's an accident, we'll know exactly what kids are on the bus, and we can quickly get a communication out to those families based on who's on the bus. And you don't have to wait to get to there and to know who exactly got on the bus. So we've had a couple accidents this year where this feature would have been huge. So this has been a long time coming. Brian's has been looking at different transportation software and components for quite some time. And he actually went this same marriage of Transact and Transportant of West Des Moines actually has this, and he went there and visited and actually watched it live, and they had an issue, and they were able, his mouth is dropped wide open because he could actually see, wow, this is how quickly you can respond and do this, and they were showing them, and it was just amazing what they could do with those that system they have. So when we're looking at the two different proposals, we're the total cost overall between our current TransFinder and Synovia is our GPS component. That's a separate component for our GPS. And if you add those two costs together, it's about $44,000 currently that we're spending. If we're to go to this new system, because all the additional features and whatnot, and with high def resolution cameras, which I think we probably want because that gives us a better view if there's especially a stop arm violation. Sometimes if a car's going fast enough, you might not be able to read the license plates, but in high def you're gonna have a better chance in doing that. That would be about just a little bit over $30,000 additional add to our cost on an annual basis. But I think based on all the features and all the things that we can get, in my opinion, that's well worth the additional expense. And this, by the way, this would come out of our DEPL fund, not general fund expense as well. So.
I'll add to this is when Dave, as he mentioned, this has been a long time coming, and those of you that were at the board visit at Transportation, actually a year and a half ago, something like that, you kind of heard what the long-term vision was of where we'd like to go. And as Dave said, we've had, unfortunately, a couple accidents this year that this would have been tremendously valuable for us to have at that time, and from us monitoring things to be able to communicate with families faster, more efficiently would have been wonderful for us as well with everything. When he and Brian came to me with the initial cost difference, $300,000 up front, that was almost stopped me in my tracks right away. But the plan to, I'll go back to what Dave started with, is we're only planning to order 2 buses this next round instead of 4. So that's essentially a wash of the cost pieces that way, the upfront cost and then the annual difference. As Dave mentioned, about $30,000 for that increase, but which is substantial, but we feel like the value in the services that we will get and our community and our families will get is well worth that amount. This really became really ingrained in me sometime earlier this year, and I ordered a pizza. I could literally track the Domino's pizza delivery guy to my house. And thought, man, we can't do that with our kids. We need to upgrade, because that's the level of expectation people are going to have, and it's also a level we need to provide for families as well too. So, that's a lot we just threw at you in that piece of it, but it's such a big topic that it was hard to break it down any way less than that. So.
Questions? First of all, what are the ongoing costs for the software implementation once we put the cameras in? Because you mentioned the $300,000 up front, but then are there any ongoing costs that we would need to add to our budget in future years?
That is actually
$30,000 you were talking about? Yeah, that's at $30,000.
Okay, so that's the $30,000.
That's an ongoing. That's normally an annual basis, about additional $30,000.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when we purchase new buses in the future, we will actually have these cameras, everything outfitted as a part of the bid of the new bus. So this is just taking our current buses and retrofitting them. That's what the big expense is.
The $30,000 is total for all of the buses each year?
30, yes.
Okay.
For both Transact and for Transportant, the 30,000, it actually is going to be about 75, but it's about 30,000 more than what we're paying today.
Okay.
That may be on the high end because that's for every bus in our fleet, which
Correct.
we don't know if we will actually
Yes.
add this to every single bus right away because some of our older buses, if they're only in place for a
Okay.
short time, is that worth it? So, so that would be
Correct.
the max difference we'd be looking at.
And then my second question was, if we only buy 2 buses this year, is there a future year in which we're going to need to plan for 6 buses in order to offset that? Because we're on that kind of schedule of 4 buses a year, are we going to need to adjust that at some point?
No, I think we can manage that as we speak right now. We actually have a few more spares than we typically would normally have. I think the transition to a 3-tier plan, a 3-tier system actually has reduced the number of buses that we really needed, so that actually has helped.
We actually have more than we need. Okay.
Just a reminder that we have several buses that we have ordered back in February we still don't even have yet. So in some ways, those will be like the new buses coming in that we.
Actuality, I think we're getting them possibly on Friday.
The ones we ordered in 2022
Yep.
are
February
getting coming on Friday.
2022.
That's what I was gonna bring up.
Was
This
there
company
2 or
that likes to do the surge charges, we ordered them in 2022 and we still haven't received them. And that surcharge was, that they threw at us, wasn't that around $13,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall what that
I
number
mean,
was.
Going back to our meeting, that's
Yeah.
what was brought up at the meeting. And then updating the new problem that they talked about. Safety of our students is our #1 priority. And I think for parents that have young ones and what these cameras can do and get immediate response either from an administrator, transportation, police, ambulance, whatever, hope it never, ever comes to that. But I think it's so important to have that new technology because, like Shannon said, when we went out there, it looks impressive what we have now, but what you have just described goes way beyond that. And when you can have a camera that shows the kids sitting down or if somebody might be acting up, it's the beginning of the school year and we're getting a little handsy and stuff. That's one of the things that I think would appease most parents is that we have this to protect their kids and to help with the district to get a response as quickly as we can. And
I like, one thing that parents have been asking us for years that we've talked about, we just didn't have the capability yet, was the bus tracking. It's 2 degrees outside, is my bus here? Do I send my kid out to wait 15 minutes, it's super cold? Is it running late? And this system has that Find My Bus tracker in the parent portal. And I like the idea of having kids scan when they get on, so we know exactly which kids are on the bus at any given moment. And as far as the bus bid, right now the bids are $7,000 apart, but if our historical experiences come in and we get $13,000 in surcharges, then that's not the low bid anymore. And Brian did an excellent job of stating all of the reasons why he's recommending that we go with the Hoagland bus, and we just said, the ones we've ordered aren't even here yet. Not extending a warranty on a bus when you've had it for the first 10.5 months and you don't extend the first-year warranty, this is just not good practice, and we have the ability to make informed decisions. So the committee's recommendation is to listen to Brian in our transportation department.
And on the Hoagland, doesn't that have a better
It's a 4-year,
metal?
yes.
Yeah, it is.
Better metal
16
than-
gauge versus
than
20.
Bluebird.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just another quick comment as well. At the last city council meeting I was at, there was a lot of discussion about people speeding past buses and ignoring arms and stuff, and there will be cameras on all of the arms now, or
Yeah,
now
it
we
was-
just have a few that way. So that
Yep.
was answering the police department's questions then too. So.
Dave, I'm making an assumption, but can you confirm that the the information that parents would have access to would only be regarding their child, so that they wouldn't have access to like the camera feed
no,
or what other kids are on the bus or any of those
No.
kinds of things. They would be able to track where the bus is and if
Correct.
their child is on the bus.
Yeah,
Is that
how that
accurate?
works is the GeoGrid where it's set up. When the bus gets into a certain radius from where their bus stop is, then it will tell them they've entered the grid of where they're, with the GeoGrid, and that's all they can see. They cannot go in and see the system. That is
Yeah.
only for our staff.
wanted
And,
to
yeah.
We asked the same question, like it's not doggy daycare where you can zoom in and watch your pet. You can't zoom into the bus and see, okay,
Yes.
yep, my kid's in the fourth
Appeased
seat.
my mind.
So no,
Yes.
the live feed is only to our transportation department.
Thank you.
I just have a clarification. Are these gas buses or propane?
They are diesel. Right now, the Hoagland does not have, the Internationals do not have the LP type, but they are coming out in, I think, 2025, a bus, an engine that can actually handle all diesel, regular gas, or LP. So,
Whatever you're in the mood for that day.
The prices are better.
yeah, they're coming out with an engine in the future, so.
That would certainly help on looking at what's the most expensive and buying the things that is least expensive as
Right,
the fuel.
right.
So that could be an advantage in the future for sure. Thank you.
Are there
Well,
any-
as-
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, as a reminder, I think with this, as well as other things that we have to approve, the lowest bid is not always the right bid, and it's important to make sure that we're not compromising anything when we agree to a bid. So I just wanted to say that.
Appreciated the extra work that Brian went through to detail out the difference between the bids and the historical information that we have in our past purchases. I think that's important, so.
He doesn't bring this recommendation lightly because he knows the importance of fiscal responsibility, but he just was not comfortable, based on all the reasons Dave mentioned, making a recommendation other than what he's provided, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to say we're lucky to have Brian because he cares enough to do all that extra research and really understand what's best. So thank you, Brian, for all your hard work.
It sounds like the higher bid is the more fiscally responsible thing to do with what he knows, so.
Yep.
Yeah, the minute they start slapping on the surcharges, then it's no longer the lowest bid.
Well-
And we have a history of them doing that. They already did it.
Yeah, right away I checked the regulations under the Iowa code to see if there was anything that forced us to take a little bid, and there's not. And I checked our board regulation, board policy, and we're based on all the other components of what we're looking at. We're fine with, we meet our board policy and we meet the state code with doing this. So.
The vote isn't until later, but does anyone have any additional questions on any of the transportation contracts we're going to go over later? All right, Shannon?
First of all, several things. A couple we kind of touched on tonight, but that's okay. It's good to have Amy visit the district last week, and she's in the audience today as well, which is nice to have her here. When she visited last week, the transition piece, I think, is still going very well. We continue to inundate her with tons and tons of things when she's here. She was able to attend her first MEDCO board meeting last week and meet a lot of community members that way. She joined Dave and myself, along with the high school administration and OPN planning meeting with the auditorium, which I'll talk about here in just a second. She was able to get to our secondary schools and also met with Britt and Clark in a very busy day. So it's great to have her here tonight. We should be here for part of the day tomorrow as well. So let's continue that overwhelming Amy process right now. But I think that all of this will help her come July 1st to feel prepared and ready to go. Construction-wise, all three of our projects right now are moving forward. The tennis courts, they haven't been out there yet. I did not fully anticipate the level of work that is taking place on the tennis courts to get those ready to go from the groundwork. It is a constant flow of trucks and equipment out there. It's going very well. Oak Ridge tells me it's not an issue for them as far as all the action they're seeing. Their contractor's doing a good job of respecting the school day and time and all the transportation stuff we have out there anyway. So they're taking advantage of the nice weather, and that's been good to see. Administration
For
building's
once.
been a slower start for us than we'd like to see. Dave and I are meeting with OPN and Peak Construction next week to to get that project kicked off. We're hoping there's a lot happening behind the scenes, because right now in front of the scenes, there's not a lot happening. So we will hopefully have a better update for you on that here shortly. So.
We'll be organizing a groundbreaking as soon as we know they're going to break the ground. So we'll
That would be helpful.
organize that for the board.
Doesn't do much good to have a groundbreaking if we
Yes,
haven't
that would be
broken any
helpful.
ground yet. So, and then the final piece, the auditorium, is what we spent a lot of time on last week with OPN. Thought we had a really productive meeting, as a couple of people mentioned in our finance audit update as well. We continue to work with OPN to give them feedback. They continue to bring us revised iterations and plans to the project, really focused on trying to save some significant dollars as the project costs continue to rise, not just here, but for everybody's dealing with, but without really substantially changing the design of our project, because we like what we have. We want to keep the 1,200 seats. We want to keep some of the transportation, or the flow of the traffic and students and staff there as well. So we were pleased with the revision. They brought us back this last week. We're going to meet with them again next week on that project as well. I think the next couple of weeks, they'll continue to make some progress there. I would estimate right now, based on what they've told us, probably July would be a good time for the board to get an update as far as not just the plans, but also what the revised cost estimates will be. I think they're going to do a costing exercise in late June to early July, it sounds like, the next stage, and that'll refine the estimates they gave us the other day, hopefully in a positive way too. So that project's coming along nicely. One thing I want to get on your radar right away, and I won't go into too much detail on this tonight, but just so you're aware when this comes up, we do anticipate that we're going to have to do an early bid package. I thought they did a really nice job at OPN and of really kind of informing us that because of the complexity of that project, and as Clark mentioned earlier, there are some mechanical pieces that we are going to have to move from where it's currently at to the new location, and then some new projects we have to order and incorporate as well. Some of those electrical components have really long lead times right now. They're talking almost 2 years for some of those pieces. So we want to get that early package ready to go, get out for bid, and get that ordered as soon as possible. So when we need it down the road for construction, it'll be available for us and not be hold up the project for those type of things. So I was really pleased with the design work they've done. And then the summer of 2024, we know there's going to be some messiness at the high school as they begin that project and have to cut power and transition. But they've really done, I think, a good job of really working around the school calendar, from when we have times with no kids, from when winter break, they've got things scheduled for that. They have things scheduled for no school days, their upcoming calendars, and then the summertime as well. So more information for you to come on that early bid package, but just be aware that that's why we're looking at that, is just because of some incredible delays they're still dealing with there. So other than that, we're really approaching the end of the school year. Last full week of school, as everybody knows, is this week, and the end of the school last day on May 31st. And a reminder for everybody, commencement is this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Powerhouse Arena. I think that's the first time I've actually said the name without having to remember which of the new names it is, so it's finally becoming ingrained. If you have not RSVP'd to Joe Niedert yet, please do, so he makes sure he has the right number of chairs and out, and also the recognition for board members as well too. So we're anticipating 545 graduates as of Friday. That number may fluctuate a little bit between now and Sunday, but that will be the second largest graduating class in Linn-Mar history. So always an exciting day to have as well. So that's all I have for you today. I don't know what the largest was, but not much more than 545. I know that. So they were. There wasn't a chance we're going to get it, but we're going to get close to it. So.
Any questions for Shannon? On to strategic plan discussion. Handouts on your table.
I'll just continue, if you don't mind, Britt, just do a quick overview of what we have in front of them and where we're at. Before we dig into the specifics of the plan and the update where we're at, I did give you a visual at your desk. You should have several pieces of paper. The first one should look like this, that very simple visual. I've seen this before. I just thought that it really applied in this case. To me, anytime you start new initiatives, you always feel like the project and the growth are going to be just a linear growth. Things we learn, we improve, things get better, nice and neat and easy, and just everything smooth sailing. In reality, We know that's not how things work. So the back side of that shows a different visual of a much messier trajectory. I always have to remind myself that this is how it is sometimes in our reality. And I think this really applies well to our strategic learning process. Things start okay, but they get messy for a while, and eventually we come out of the mess in a better place. It's kind of the bottom line takeaway for me on this piece. I think that really shows where we're at. We've had some messiness through it, but as a cabinet, we feel good about our draft in front of you. I'll walk through that for you in a few minutes and take any questions you have. You may still feel like we're still in some of that messy stage, or maybe you don't, and we'll talk to those pieces as well too. But I think we're in a good spot in the process to, as we approach the home stretch. So the changes we have made, so now I'll move to the next page in your packet, which is kind of the peachish colored document. The changes that we've made from last board meeting to this one, I'll just run through some things for you right away. We made pretty significant changes to the structure, and those include the terminology. We've been using kind of what Leslie had helped us create, the champions, priorities, measures of success, and finally the goals. After our conversation last time, you gave us the green light to adjust that as we saw what fits. So what we've gone to is, you'll see at the very top, 2023 to 28 goals. So those are our 5-year strategic plan goal areas. Those have not changed at all. The wording that's there, just the entitlement of the goals. The middle column is the more of the beginning of the annual objectives, so 23, 24 objectives, and then the expected outcomes in 24 based on those objectives as well. Doesn't mean there won't be other things that show up as objectives or outcomes, but those are kind of the indicators that we came up with for that piece. The other main thing you'll notice right away is the structure looks very different than you saw last time visually. We went from a multi-page view to a plan on a page, essentially. And you'll also see it goes from more of a vertical view in the past to more of the horizontal. So if you track the fifth one, maximize facilities, the color coding going across from left to right, should show you kind of the flow that we saw with that. The other piece that each year then we would envision for this is the 23, 28 goals stay the same, and 24, 25, the objectives and the expected outcomes then get updated based on the progress of those goals from the previous year. The other thing that we added is the next page in your packet, the status report page. And I say we've created all this. I'll be fully transparent. We found some items we liked from other school districts as well too. So if you happen to go to Dubuque's strategic plan, you might see something very similar to this piece of it. But the status report really resonated with us because I heard you say pretty loud and clear last time, and throughout the process, that you wanted to have updates throughout this time period and have this be a living document. And this is one tool we thought could help make that a living document. So you'll see the exact same content on here from the goals and the objectives. And then what we would envision happening is every time throughout the year, we could provide updates during board meetings, whenever you wanted that to take place. We would provide updates under each of those areas as far as what that looks like, where we're at with things right now. You can see a little bit of work in progress just as a sample under goal area number 2, and then goal area number 5 on the back shows a couple of other things as well that recognize the beginning stage of the projects or things that are in progress. And then as you work through the key things that are operational and completed, can eventually show where those are at. The difference between operational and completed that we discussed is really, it both means that they are somewhat done, but operational means it's now become part of how we do business. It's just become part of our modus operandi, essentially, and that the things that are completed are more of a task, such as a bond issue or something that when it's done, it's just literally checked off, not part of the procedural aspect. So I thought this would be a great way to keep things updated throughout the year, because we're part of the board packet every time, kind of like we do the cabinet update, to provide you that ongoing changes throughout the year, and can envision this just becoming a living, growing document each time. So, and then the final piece of it, if you go back to the peach colored page, similar to what we talked about last time, is we'd envision each objective area and each goal area to have that action plan created by cabinet members for the teams that they lead to connect with these areas, to provide more details and content than is what is shown on this page right here. So, and then the final page I think we included in your packet was actually some feedback thoughts from Melissa. So I copied those off, just thought it would be hard to try for Melissa to read through every single one of those and try to explain it, so I just gave them the visual to see that piece as potential adjustments or solutions to make as well. With that, I think I covered all the key pieces to this that I wanted to at least provide on summary view. Did I miss anything else from our conversations?
That's a good summary.
So take any thoughts, questions you have with everything. And we also recognize end of the school year is the worst possible time to try to be crafting a detailed strategic plan, but we're doing the best we can with the time period of the year. So
Before we get into feedback, I just want to kind of set some parameters. I've gotten lots of feedback that maybe we're not ready to approve this tonight. Maybe we're not sure this is the format. So what I would like to do is go through what we've talked about we want, and then go through your feedback. But I want to put a cap of 30 minutes on this conversation, and if we are not ready to approve in 30 minutes, then I'm going to recommend we table it, because I know that some of the feedback is that we should have a whole work session on this, that it should be part of the onboarding with Amy. There's a lot of different opinions, and I don't want to spend hours tonight doing that when I don't think we're going to get to that solution. So I'm going to say 30 minutes, which puts us at 6:45, and then we'll reevaluate where we're at in the process and make some decisions. I know one feedback piece that I got was an example of a different school district's strategic plan. It was very thorough and comprehensive, but it was also 16 pages long. And I remember one of our early conversations as a board was that our last strategic plan, the big one, was too long and no one would read it. And so as a board, we had said we wanted something that was simple to read and easy for the public to look at. So that is how we've ended up with this streamlined. If that's not still what the board wants, that's fine, but I just wanted to remind everybody that that's where we started, and that is the original direction that we gave cabinet. So that is how we ended up here. The goal statements we agreed on back in January or February as a board in a work session. So those are based on our stakeholder feedback and on our work sessions. So I think where we're at is we need to better understand as a board what we want objectives to look like, what we want expected outcomes to look like, and how we want this to come together. So now I will open it up for whatever your guys' thoughts are.
I'd like to start and just say, first of all, this is a much friendlier way to look at things than what we saw last time. My main concern is that the people who are going to use this and enact it and live it understand and care that this is okay. Okay. I asked for some feedback from a few of the people in leadership. They say they feel like now this is a way that they can go forward. I love that you changed the names of things to, if it's objectives, it's objectives. It doesn't have to be some remarkable new name that came up along the way. It has to be friendly to the people who are doing it, okay? I do have concerns that I want Amy to be as involved as she can be, but if we go forward with this tonight, which is very possible, I think that it just would be a goal that that she would work, as I'm sure she would, with the cabinet to look at it and say, after she's looked at it, these are some things that I think we might need to consider. You might want this somewhere. Where could we put this in? I mean, I feel like when she's leading us that she needs to have some input of it and have some ownership. And I'm not saying that Amy would not be able to jump on this and just take it where it is, because I do believe she could. I just feel like when you're working on something with your team, and our team is the whole school district, that we need to have, her feedback in there too. One last thing, I guess, is I like the way that you put the color coding, and that there's the goal and then the objectives and then the things you'll do under it. And that there is the status report. Wherever you got it, great idea. Okay. So at this point, I just appreciate where you're all at and go from there.
Share some of the feedback that, or explain maybe and provide some structure to the feedback that I provided. So I started with the objectives and start from the top, started with suggesting a change for the dates. It looks like it's only 1-year objectives, and I think that these probably should be objectives for the whole strategic planning time frame.
We agreed that it would be a living document and we would update that on an annual basis. So that's why it's 1 year at a time.
Then where's the rest of it?
I feel like our plan should be, here's what we're planning to do, and not that we can't update it, but I see that we've got expected outcomes that have things for 5 years from now or annually and long-term objectives. I feel strongly that a strategic plan should be all-encompassing for what we're trying to accomplish over the 5 years, and that there should be multi-year goals within it. And yes, we may have to adjust that during the time frame, but I don't feel like we should only have what we're going to do in the first year in our plan. I feel like that's setting us up for having to start all over the next year with, okay, now what are we going to do this year? I've never seen a 5-year strategic plan that only has objectives and activities for 1 year at a time. I've done a lot of strategic planning, and this was the first strategic plan I've ever seen that only has 1-year objectives. So that was one concern for me. So then as we go down in the objectives, there were a few different ones that were things like maintain and develop metrics and things like that. To me, the strategy in a strategic plan is, what are we going to change? What's our goal of what we're trying to implement? And if we're just going to keep doing what we're going to do, then that's not part of our strategic plan. That's just keep doing what we're doing. So if we want this to be part of our big picture goals, then it needs to be doing more or changing something. So I was suggesting making revisions to this of, like, developing metrics might be a step or an activity within the objective, but not necessarily the objective. So for example, the objective around develop metrics for middle and high school transitions and interventions, that to me is an activity, but the objective around that is to improve the successful transitions for middle school and high school and improving their interventions. And how we get to that, one is that we develop the metrics, and then two is that we measure them over time to see that those metrics are improving. Because what we're trying to change is their success in their transitions from middle school to high school and the success of our interventions that we're providing during that time. The maintaining high levels of community engagement, I think what we're trying to do there is that we're trying to improve our comprehensive communications and community engagement. So maybe the objective is to improve that, or our objective is to create and implement a plan for internal and external stakeholders, something that is showing us what are we trying to accomplish, and then how we'll measure that is in the objectives, or in the outcomes. So that kind of gives a framework for you guys of, as you're kind of looking through my suggestions, kind of my frame of thinking of the difference between an activity and outcome versus the objectives. And then the one thing that I think is missing is in the social emotional learning, one thing that we've been talking a lot of at this board table has been the loss of mental health services within the school, and how are we going to ensure that the kids that need that kind of service in order to be ready to learn, what will we do, and how are we going to ensure that those kids are here and ready and able to learn? And that to me is a big, huge part of the social emotional learning plan. But there's nothing really in here about that. And I think it needs to be like very explicitly mentioned. Whether it's an objective or it's its own outcome, I don't know, and I'm open to either, but I really think it needs to be explicitly identified as ensuring equitable access to services to ensure mental health of our students, because we've identified that as a board priority. I'll stop talking now.
I've got some notes taken down, but I don't know if, I don't know if what you're wanting is to like talk through some of this stuff, or what you're, you know what I mean? Or you're just kind of wanting like an overarching feeling about.
Like what Melissa gave very
Okay.
specific.
Yep, and I
like,
can do that. Okay.
I think we need, because we've done 3 versions now, where the first was a giant spreadsheet, and we all said there was too much detail with no measurables. And then we got the second version, which had measurables and goals, and that was a little too specific without enough content, and then, and words we didn't like, that didn't make sense for us. So now we've got something that's kind of in between and more visually friendly and closer to what we are doing. So now I want to know what's the next step. Like when you look at it, when you pick up the page, what speaks to you, what doesn't speak to you, what do you want to see, so that we know what our next, as we plan the next session of this, what do we need to do?
Well, so I don't think we need a booklet, but I do think it's got to be a document that's more than 1 page. I don't think you can fit a 5-year strategic plan on a single page. I think, I agree with Melissa that, we can't just do 1 year of objectives, 1 year of expected outcomes. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here next year having the same conversation. I don't think that will be productive. I think some of these objectives are some of them are difficult to kind of understand, not in the wording, but like, for instance, align the social emotional learning plan across PK-12 environments. What is the social emotional learning plan? And I don't necessarily see, it doesn't necessarily follow for me when you go to the objective that you have this like 100% of schools will improve in one target area. I can't really see how those two relate to each other. And I still think that this outcome, just the way that it's worded, is pretty cumbersome. I think it needs to be split into 2. All schools will improve in one target area, and then a second one, all schools will see a decrease in subgroup disparities. I also, because we've talked a lot about this conditions for learning survey and how the way that it is set up, it's a very strange scoring. And are there other metrics that we could use? Things with like PBIS interventions, like how many peer-on-peer like incidents of violence are we having? I think there are other metrics we could use that it's not that we can't use the conditions for learning survey, but because of the way that it is scored, I think it would be helpful to have some other metrics in there. Some of the objectives, as Melissa hit on, kind of feel a little bit more like they're like activities, like research and implement an HRIS system. That to me feels like the activity, and that's kind of like what the outcome is as well. But what is the reason that we need? I think, Melissa, you hit on this like communications plan. One of the expected outcomes here, identify focus areas, academics, activities, staff, PD, et cetera. It seems like you've already identified the focus areas, so that the objective would be, what are you going to do within, how are you going to use those things for telling a Linn-Mar story? Like, are you going to have Kevin do like 5-minute videos on each of the schools to talk about like specific things that they're doing, like initiatives they're undertaking, or what have you? Like, that would be the activity or expected outcome there. This foster a data-driven, goal-oriented focus through building improvement plan and professional development. I don't see anything then in the expected outcomes about PD. So I'd like to see something in there regarding an outcome for PD, because I know that you guys are working on different things, and I think that that belongs in there. Just an example, in DEI, we talked about PD that would focus around equity, restorative justice, that sort of thing. I think that could go into the strategic plan, just as an example. Employee engagement. You know, one of the things we heard from those who interviewed for the superintendent position was talking about surveying our staff. So are we going to have a tool then that we are going to use to survey them so that, you know, we have an idea of their level of satisfaction? Sorry. The reach and sustain performance of 85% or more, I think Melissa hit on this. I wonder, I think all the goals should be achievable, and I wonder if that is really something that is achievable. Looking at our scores now, knowing that they're going to go down a little bit, you know, and the other thing about these scores is that they really do kind of bob a little bit from year to year. They can go up, they can go down. I just don't want to put something on the strategic plan that we can't have a reasonable degree of expectation to be able to complete.
We want a goal that makes us stretch a little, but not that's so far out
Correct.
that
Yes.
we can't.
Yes. So, you know, is that we improve by 1%, you know, on each grade, or, but again, these things go up and down. If we do the tests in a day versus if we do the tests over several days, these things move around a lot. So
I want to know what a statistically significant change
Yes.
would be from year
Yes.
to year, and so that we know over 5 years what a meaningful improvement would look like.
Under create a culture of continuous feedback. Hold on, I'm looking at Melissa's and I can't see the thing. I didn't see that there was an expected outcome related to that. That there was a.
And pretty much almost everything you're adding here, Rachel, is things that we would have in our action plans that would be created for each of these different areas. And I know I could talk to everything you had over there, academy members are probably just biting to add more details to each piece. So we can provide that. It just becomes a very heavy document that we talked earlier that I didn't think people wanted. So trying to find that balance of too narrow and too broad has been challenging. So that's the piece we've struggled with on how to make that happen. As far as the 85% piece, you're right, picking numbers like that is hard because one, every grade level is different. And every grade level is different from reading to math to science, and then they're different from FAST to ISASP. So to pick a broad goal area is very challenging. That's something we could certainly adjust and modify from that piece of it as well, because 85% on FAST may look a little bit different than 85% on ISASP as well too. So that's where more of our grade level specific goals and building goals would then be directly pertained to that. So 85 is pretty aspirational, like you said. It may not be realistic for that. That's something that we can be adjusted as well too.
I'll just be honest. I don't think that think that what I'm talking about, like what I've stuff that should be did, you know, these, I don't know what the term is you just used.
Action plans.
These action plans. I don't know if that's stuff that I think should necessarily go in an action plan. It seems like, it does seem like stuff that would be included in a strategic plan. And as I said, I don't think that we need a booklet, but I think, you know, I think to do it well, you're going to need as much information in it as you're going to need. And I don't think you should put, I don't think the goal should be, oh, let's just get it in 3 pages. If that's not that doesn't give people what they need to be able to see, like, where's the district going? So
I want to give Barry and Matt
Sorry,
a chance because we're coming up on 10 minutes on my deadline. I want to make sure
In my
everyone.
opinion, at the point we're at right now, we're not going to make a decision tonight, because I think there are too many moving pieces.
I knew that when I set a 30-minute time limit. I just wanted
So I
everybody to
don't
talk.
think- I don't personally have a desire to talk at this point, because everything that you're saying is exactly right. However, I can see some frustration probably in Shannon and his leadership team, because they're trying to come through with the best we can do, and I really think probably it's going to be a work session, advocating that necessarily. But I just felt like, I personally didn't feel too bad about this, because it's accomplishing kind of what everybody wants. It's a moving, fluid situation. Amy's going to be involved. That's the answers that we got from some of the team over here. Sandra and myself, exactly what she said. So I just think we're wasting our time at this point moving forward. And that's not shutting Matt down at all. But.
And I tend to agree there. And first of all, I have to apologize for not being at the last work session to give some of my 2 cents into this. So I appreciate all of the work that has gone into it. It's certainly so much easier for me to read as it is. So there's been a lot of improvements. But like Barry said, you know, obviously there's still a lot of things that need to be discussed, I think, with this group that I don't think is going to get accomplished tonight. So I agree with that.
2 cents is that this is an ongoing project. It's not ready yet, but let's not forget we're kind of well ahead of the state as far as getting a strategic plan as presented. And we've come a long way with the cabinet and Shannon and our board to get to this point, like Barry was pointed out. But Amy's going to be an integral part of this. We've always wanted to get something and get it right. We are moving forward from where we started. There's no doubt in my mind. I just don't think it's something that is going to get done today. I think we're moving in the right direction. We've gone everything from changing some percentages, do a lot of word changing we've done so far to get there. So that's where I'm at.
You want to make a motion to table it?
I move to table the strategic plan.
Motion by Clark and a second by Barry. Any further discussion?
Can I recommend that when we bring this back together, that the board and the cabinet get to work together to make that the next draft? Because I think some of the frustration has been either the board works on it or the cabinet works on it, and we're not all working together, and I think that's what's causing us to have to keep going back and forth. So I think if we can collaborate on it, I think we can get to a final product much more quickly.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to new business.
Move to approve the amended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Barry and a second by Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to approve the 2023-24 student fee schedule as presented.
Second.
Rachel and a second by Clark. Any discussion?
Quick
question on that. Do we have resources set aside and available for families that don't have the ability to even get the reduced fee met for those activities that are fairly costly?
We do. The foundation's a great help for us on those scholarship opportunities. Those you attended main event, that was one of the big activities they do, is specifically for that, I think they call it the Champions Laws or Champions Initiative, and those funds all go towards supporting kids to make sure they're not
Can be for
limited to those resources.
Any of those activities?
Correct. Sports activities.
Just wanted to
Yep.
make sure since some
Fine
of them were
arts. Yep.
fairly high cost. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to approve the letting of bus bids to Hoagland Bus Company for the purchase of 2 buses for a total of $298,174.
Second.
Barry, and a second by Sandra. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Motion to approve the 2023-24 student harassment brochures as presented?
Second.
Melissa, and a second by Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to approve a flexible student and school support program for the 2023-24, 2024-25, and 2025-26 school years per Iowa Code 256.11.8B to teach high school physical education in a 90-minute block quarter format instead of the traditional semester format.
Second.
Motion by Rachel and a second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Move to approve the tentative agreement conditioned on subsequent Linn-Mar Education Association ratification for a total package increase of 3.01% for fiscal year 2023-24, 3% for the average of CPIU Midwest March to May, whichever is less, for fiscal year 2024-2025, and 3% or the average CPIU Midwest March to May, whichever is less. Of course, the amount would not be less than the cost of step movement for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Second.
Motion by Barry and a second by Sandra. Any discussion?
I'll just jump in real quick on this one because this is a little more complicated than most ones that you see. I want to just commend our working relationship we have with LMEA to get to this point to have a multi-year agreement in language and finances. We thought was really important. As we wrapped up our conversations, I think both sides felt very good about where they're at. And all that words that Barry read there, what that really is experienced board members, you know that we're connected with CPI as far as if we go to arbitration with LMEA, essentially, the arbitrator would set that amount no higher than the CPI that's established for that month. So, and it's capped at 3% in Iowa right now. So that's why you see the 3% piece of it. And the March to May piece just gives us the chance to set that average for those 3 months. So we plan ahead for that time period. And we typically would know that 4 to 6 months before that time frame as well too. So it won't have to wait till that last into the school year to finalize those pieces of the puzzle. So that's what that's referencing. And then the last piece that Barry mentioned about would not go less than the cost of step movement. That would be that situation if CPI was, I'm making these numbers up now, but if CPI came in at 1%, but if that's less than our step movement for staff, we would not go below that step movement piece. We want to make sure our staff, that's kind of a protection for our staff in that case to make sure they are compensated appropriately as well too. So lots of really good conversation led to that point, and feel very good about that. And I will also mention that this is conditional upon the LMEA ratifying their contract. And I think their vote is this Thursday. So normally we'd do their ratification first and then come to the board, but because of the timing with everything, it's important to get contracts out yesterday. So we don't want to wait to have a special board meeting or wait till the June 12th board meeting for us to then take action later on, especially with the holiday weekend. It's just going to slow things down. So that's why it's a little bit different wording and a little bit different order of sequence with everything as well. So
And can you confirm what positions this covers?
this is all of our teachers that are under the teacher contract. Yep.
I'll
Should have
note
mentioned
then
that right away.
I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, so motion by Barry, second by Sandra. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And please note that Melissa abstained from that vote.
I move to approve a 3% total package increase for the Transportation Department staff for fiscal year 2023-24.
Second.
A motion by Rachel and a second by Melissa. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve a 3% total package increase for administrators, managers, exempt staff, and non-exempt staff for fiscal year 2023-24.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Clark. Any discussion?
I will abstain from that vote.
Right,
Make
so,
a motion to approve
no,
the...
we have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got ahead of
So I've got a
myself.
motion by Melissa and a second by Clark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And please note that Barry abstained from 708.
Make a motion to approve the open enrollment request as presented.
Second.
Motion by Clark and a second by Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to
Motion.
approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 804.4.
Second.
Motion by Rachel and a second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that takes us all the way to the board calendar. Let's see.
Look at how light that looks compared to last time.
Oh, we're getting close to the end of May,
Yeah,
right?
holy smokes.
Condensed.
So I am doing the next city council meeting on the 8th. Barry, we went ahead and assigned you the 22nd because you weren't here last time. Does that work for you?
That's absolutely fine.
And then Matt volunteered for July 6th. I do have 2 dates to add to your calendars. August 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. in the student center outside of the gym at the high school. We're going to do another evening meet and greet for Amy, for the community. So if you can come to that, that'd be great. August 16th in the evening, 6 to 8 p.m. And then August 17th, we will do the traditional welcome back for staff in the gym. And for those of you that want to come early, we will be serving lunch as a board, or serving breakfast as a board to all of our wonderful staff members. So
What time
that'll-
does that start?
Usually 7:30, correct?
Is it just 7:30 for kind of the
Is that if you're
social
doing the
and
breakfast,
and
or
then-
is-
7:30 for breakfast,
8 o'clock
and then
kickoff.
Okay.
the welcome will start at 8.
Okay. Stick that in my
And
calendar.
you said the 16th is where?
It's in the same place we serve breakfast for the welcome, right outside the gym
Okay.
in the high school. Right, and then that's all I have for board communications. Does anyone have anything for the good of the cause? Right, and we'll move on to audience communications. At this time, I will call those who have signed up to speak in the order in which you've signed up. The board will receive and acknowledge comments, but will not engage in a dialogue with the speaker because of the set agenda for the meeting. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and should be shared in a respectful manner. Katie Lau Lancaster.
Thank you. My name is Katie Lau Lancaster. I want to begin with thanking you, the school board, for your leadership in this year, 2023-2024 school year. Thank you very much. And welcome, Superintendent-elect. We're glad that you are here, Superintendent Amy. I want to share a story that will demonstrate, I think, firsthand the legacy of Linn-Mar's commitment to public education, the expertise of our teachers, and their ability to inspire, mentor, and guide children and youth to be leaders in our communities throughout this nation. Last week, our 4th child, Sean Lancaster, was sworn in as a lawyer in the state of Nevada. He is a Linn-Mar graduate, as is his partner, Eileen. They are both also graduates from the University of Iowa postgraduate programs. Prior to being sworn in, the person who conducted the swearing-in ceremony was Attorney Julie Kavanaugh Bill, the president-elect of the State Bar's Board of Governors in Nevada. She began to introduce herself by speaking about her background growing up in the Midwest, as did our son. She then talked about her days in law school at the University of Iowa. So did our son. She then talked about growing up in eastern Iowa, small town, as did our son. And finally, she shared that she was a graduate of Linn-Mar High School here in Marion, Iowa. Talk about the affirmation of the quality of education in Iowa, the quality of education of local public schools such as Linn-Mar, and the quality of education in a public university level at the University of Iowa here in Iowa. What a legacy of excellence that a Linn-Mar graduate would be sworn in by a lawyer, by another Linn-Mar graduate, many miles and districts away from Marion. Thank you to the Linn-Mar community for your dedication to encourage and develop leaders for communities nearby and far away. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Scott. I am here tonight to talk to you about, or talk to you as a parent, and welcome Amy Courtmeyer. I thought tonight I would just kind of share what the best thing about Linn-Mar is, and that's what I came here tonight to share with you. And I've been thinking about this for weeks and struggled to really pin it down, and then it dawned on me that that is the best thing about Linn-Mar, that you can't pick the best thing about Linn-Mar. There's just so many great things happening here. It's just impossible to pick one. Is it the exceptional teachers and staff who provide our kids with rich and engaging learning environment every single day? Is it the principals who send us emails when the fire alarm goes off and then reassure us that it was just a bag of burnt popcorn? I do love Dr. G's emails, but he's really good about that. Is the best thing about Linn-Mar the rigorous curriculum, the lessons that are helping my daughters become critical thinkers and effective communicators? Maybe the best thing at Linn-Mar are the volunteers who logged over 16,000 hours so far this school year. Volunteers that provided an after-prom option for our teams and have read countless hours with elementary students throughout the district. The variety of student activities might be the best thing at Linn-Mar, from our nationally ranked show choirs to esports teams that consistently make it to state, to Rubik's Cube clubs at intermediate schools. Kids at Linn-Mar have a ton of choices. It's fabulous. My favorite thing about Linn-Mar could be the community that surrounds and supports our schools, the people who make this district a destination. I may never be able to decide what my favorite thing about Linn-Mar is, because I find things to add to my list all the time, and I encourage you to start your own list and celebrate how exceptional our district truly is.
Top, did I say it right?
You
I got it, mid-top. Masur.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Okay. My name is Midhat Mansoor. I am speaking today as a parent. I have a daughter in the 11th grade. She's going to be a senior next year. So school board members, Superintendent Bisgard, and Assistant Superintendent Nathan, and now Amy, welcome. I want to tell you all some of the stories of some unsung heroes at Linn-Mar. I personally have had the experience of getting to know 4 of them. First was Mr. Zimmerman at Bowman Woods Elementary School, who welcomed us into the district middle of first grade, middle of the school year. Mr. Zimmerman was also the school bus conductor for the walking school bus during the last week of second grade. It was a cool way for kids to walk to school from neighborhoods that were not able to be bused at that time. It was just the last week of school. Due to the proximity from where Bowman Woods was, so I think it was a 1-mile radius where the kids couldn't get bused from. Then in third grade, it was Miss Monroe, who was just a ball of energy. She goes by Mrs. March now. She told me her goal at the start of the school year during third grade was to remember each and every student's name by the end of the school year. And she got it. In 6th grade, it was Mr. Axine, who was present at every event I attended at Oak Ridge. Now, for the last 3 years, it has been Dr. Gustafson. Jeff, as he has allowed me to call him. He is not only present at all the different activities at Linn-Mar High School and events, he shows up to graduation parties. And he also shows up to private events, one of which was at my house. And what I noticed was he did not sit with the other educators. He sat with a group of students. And he loved hearing stories from them. Anytime I have felt the need to report something or talk about something that is bothering me about my daughter's experience at the school, these individuals have never hesitated to hear us out and followed up with us afterwards. I can't thank these principals enough for their presence in my daughter's life. They have definitely helped make our Linn-Mar school experience awesome. Thank you.
Includes audience communication. Thank you for joining us this evening. Shannon was nice enough to remind me that I missed something in communications. We're losing a member of our team, and this is Lisa's final board meeting with us before she goes and takes over the world in the northern part of the county. So we want to say congratulations and wish you a fond farewell and best wishes. And we have a little present for you. And I'm going to let Clark bring it to you because I can't stand up because I hurt myself. So I'm not going to stand up.
Wheel you over there.
Nope.
Who's
You
carrying
can
you
thank
to
me
your
later for
car?
reminding her, Lisa, because I know you love the spotlight.
After sitting this long.
Congratulations.
North Linn and Central City are very lucky to have you. But the minute you miss us, you let us know.
Come on back.
Thank you, Lisa, for everything that you have done for us.
Thank you, thank you.
With that, I would take a
To adjourn at 6:56.
Second.
We're on that, Barry.
motion by Barry, second by Sandra. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
That one.
All right, let's take